here's the deal. Everything out there is hard, right? For buyers, for sellers, for agents, everything is hard. Today, we're gonna focus on an experience I had this weekend with a buyer. I will tell you that it turned out good. We're gonna dive into that, and we're gonna dive into a couple things that are just kind of chapping my hide lately. So let's get rolling. My name is Jeremy Kane with eXp Realty, living in the Denver suburbs over on the YouTube channel, and super excited to kind of dive into this one because it ends in success, which is awesome. But that's it. So while you're here, smash that subscribe button, throw me a like, comment, tell me you're there because it's awesome to see the comments. Obviously, if you are in the Denver metro area or not, please reach out. My cousin Katie just reached out to me the other day from Ohio, and I'm gonna be a part of her home buying journey. Obviously, I'm not licensed in Ohio, but I'm super excited for that. So make sure you give me a call. Always here to help, give you some insights, even if I'm not your chosen realtor, which we all know that would be silly. So let's dive into this one. First and foremost, I want you all to hear this. Rates are not falling, and they actually have gone up pretty steadily since everyone was partying in December when the Fed was gonna stop raising rates and they're gonna lower the rate 6 times and all the things. Well, since then, things haven't been much better for the interest rate market, the mortgage rate market, that dove down a little bit around then, and it's been steadily creeping up since. News that the Fed might not lower the rate the first meeting or second meeting, no one really knows. And as I predicted, I think we will stay, somewhere within a half a point, maybe a little bit more now that they've creeped up a little bit. But the truth is that interest rates are not falling. They're not coming down quickly. They're not at record lows. They're not at any of that. And so that's frustrating to me because agents and professionals and lenders and everybody's out pushing the low interest rates the minute they drop. But no one talks about when they creep up and they creep up and they creep up and we lose all the ground. And so that's something definitely I want you all to hear, that interest rates are what they are. And the truth is that a lot of people are, when they go under contract, they're buying that rate down either with their own money or using a seller concession to get those temporary buy down rates, which are nice. However, the sentiment around the market that interest rates are so great and they're so low and everything's amazing, truthfully, they're high. And, January was really good because they were still, celebrating from the news in December, but they've ticked up a little bit. So just so you know, just so we're clear, at the time of this recording, February 20, whatever we're at, rates are not as positive as we thought they would be. And so all the realtors that are batching content and saying rates are record lows, rates are coming down, rates are dropping like crazy, maybe they recorded that in the middle of December or January and they're just posting it now. So that's that. I'll leave it at that. However, most buyers are buying those rates down and they're coming to a relatively decent interest rate because they're using the leverage that they do have and go from there. However, what people are talking about that is correct is that the rates are higher than they were, right? We're talking COVID crazy, 2-3%. And that is causing, like I've said many times on this channel, a interest rate lock, right? Like people are not selling the homes that they have interest rates in the 2s and 3s. So that is causing a shortage, massive shortage in inventory, more than we've already experienced and already were experiencing. And so what that means is that those sellers aren't putting those houses on the market. The only houses that are going on the market are the people that have to sell, or they just don't care because they have so much equity that they're good to go. The ones that, people aren't just moving because they don't like their kitchen anymore. The people that are moving have to move and they're getting rid of those rates. Now, the people that, are doing really well and just want a new kitchen, maybe they're moving, but they're not selling that home. They're holding on to it as an investment, which is pretty smart because those 2 and 3% interest rates allow for really good cash flow opportunity. And so that's the interest rates. It's not going to, define us. It's not going to cripple us. People are sick of hearing about the high interest rates. Buyers are coming into the market, maybe not like, the floodgates opening, but they're coming to the market, creating more demand with even less inventory, and that's a problem. So, when we were heading down and, we're maybe, people were talking about maybe being in the 5s and all that. I think if we get into the 5s, we will see some of those people that have interest rates in the 3s and 4s be like, okay, we're good, right? It's not that crazy of a jump, but going from 3 to 7 is a big deal, especially if you're leveling up your house and your cost of the home. So that's the first part. Now, I want to tell you a story. I have an amazing client, 29-year-old, single. She's a stylist. She actually just cut my hair. Thank you for that today. But she was in a situation this weekend where we saw 2 homes. She kind of liked them. We've been looking for a while. She kind of narrowed down her area, was knowing what she was looking for, maybe give a little bit back, maybe, was going to have a roommate, didn't need like 2 completely separate bathrooms. But we had this opportunity to offer on these 2 homes, and we decided to offer on home A. And home A was in rough condition, right? It looked like somebody had lived there pretty hard. They were still there. They had a lot of stuff. The walls weren't fully painted. The floors needed completely redone. Pretty much every piece of that house cosmetically needed some work. And that was okay because we saw through it and we're like, okay, well, it is what it is. It was priced pretty well. So we went in with a full price offer. And much to our surprise, we got a 2-page counter back. And it was, I'll be honest, we did not offer a post-closing occupancy because of the condition of the property. It didn't seem like it was the best bet. Not to mention my client couldn't offer that due to her living situation. And we wanted the refrigerator and the washer and dryer included. Those were excluded on the MLS. So those were the only 2 things. And had we received a counter, with practical terms for post-closing occupancy, we could have worked through that. And honestly, the washer, dryer, and the fridge weren't that big a deal. But a 2-page counter, countering almost every single date, giving us a deadline of a time early in the morning before noon to close the property, which I've never seen. Not to mention, a free rent back, no deposit, all kinds of terms that I was just like, okay. and the truth is, what I talked to the client about, I said, look, we could go back and counter back and write a different offer and maybe, ease some of these terms and take some of them. I was like, but if this is the case, how is this transaction going to play out if there's an inspection issue, which was highly likely given the age of the home and the condition. How do you think that's going to play out? And she was like, you know what? Let's go offer on home B, right? Like, we're good. So I said, hey, considering the condition of the home, this offer isn't going to work. Thanks for your time. I literally copy and pasted most of the dates over to this new offer. I actually offered the same terms for a house that was listed higher, and we got it accepted. No counter, everything. Great, clean offer. So the reason I'm telling you this story is, here's the deal. As a buyer, you can't be looking for the perfect scenario. Not that either one of these for my client was the perfect scenario, but they would work in her situation and she was ready to go. But I was still pretty heated, right? I'm pretty competitive. And so when I get a counter, I'm like, hold on, but I've written 500 of these offers and the dates weren't wrong. It was just a very aggressive counter offer that was pretty unnecessary. P.S. There was no communication, no call, none of that. And so she was like, oh, look, I don't want to work with that person, right? I'll go over here and buy this house that's 5 minutes away, still a decent location, but actually I don't have to do anything. It's vacant and new carpet and paint and all the things. And that's going to work for me in my situation. And she was tickled when it came back as, no counter. We thought they might counter a little bit. But the point is that we have to understand that, first of all, it's about our clients. And that's the thing that drives me crazy about real estate agent posting about low interest rates and all the things. But also that if we set our mind to it and we want this and we have our non-negotiables and we're in the right frame of mind, okay, we don't have to do what we had to do in 2021 as a buyer to get under contract. And in most cases, we can't. right? Because the interest rates aren't so low, you're not saving cash, you might have to use extra cash to buy down a rate to get an affordable monthly payment. And we just don't have the asset that we had with that low interest rate and all the things that were provided by that. So while this market will be competitive, I think that we really need to understand that it's about where we're going, what we're doing, and getting the buyer into the place that they want to be. And she's so happy. She's cut my hair today, talking about it. She was smiling. She was ready to go. She was like, I don't want to jinx it. You know, the inspection, all those first time home buyer things. But I commend her because there was no emotion, right? She was like, okay, they don't want my offer. I don't want theirs, right? And I think that buyers sometimes get a little bit too emotional, get frustrated. The truth is that offer was not a reflection of her agent or her situation. That seller just didn't want to sell. And the agent didn't have the ability to communicate with her client that, you know, this is a pretty good offer. So as we push forward in that, that's just what I wanted to bring home is that buyer was actually less affected by that counter proposal than I was. And I said, okay, let's go. So changed, commend to her, not getting super emotional. She's now under contract on a home that's going to work, closing in, you know, the amount of days she needed so that she doesn't have to have a double move or anything like that. And it was all because she was ready to go. This is my offer, that she stood behind it and understood that the seller has the control they have, but she had control of her emotion and made a logical decision to move forward, and it worked. No other competition, under contract, less than 24 hours, and we received that counter proposal, and now we have the inspection this week. So to buyers out there is hope, and have a little bit of understanding that, okay, I can do what I can do, but I can't give it all. And you will find the right home if you have the right agent behind you and the right people behind you that are guiding you in those directions. Obviously, I understood that home had a lot of the things that she needed. And there was nothing that was, you know, holding her back. So that's my story, success story. Maybe I'll have her on for a testimonial video sometime, but I hope you guys are doing well. And as always, please share this story. If you know somebody that's in the market that's struggling, make sure they hear that stay the course, stick to the cause, and it will turn out how it's supposed to turn out. So hope you guys like that one. Throw me a like, give me a comment, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.